All right, well, my clock says 11, so I think we can get started. So again, thanks everybody for joining us today for our biweekly Free Friday webinars. It's a lot of F's. So thanks for joining us. My name is Kamala Thorpe, and Dave Mills and I will be doing the webinar today.
Good morning, everyone.
Dave's got control of the PowerPoint, so just a quick outline of what we're going to be covering today. Dave's going to show you how to do some basic output sheets. He's going to explain and show you a new locking feature, which makes drafting and output sheets easier. And he'll also show you how you can use screen layouts for saving output sheets. Oh, and also I forgot to mention, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask us in the question panel. And also, this webinar is being recorded, so we will send you a link to the recording after the fact, so you can watch it again or pass it on to anyone who missed the webinar. It also will be emailed to anyone who is not here. Okay, so the webinar today is going to be done in RoadEng. Both modules, both the location and terrain modules, have the ability to create output sheets. Dave will be using the location module today, though, for this webinar. And before I pass things on to Dave, our slide, our upcoming webinars. So those are the next 3 upcoming webinars. Love you to join us for any or all of these. And with that, I will pass things on to Dave, and he will show you the webinar and output sheets.
Thanks very much, Cam. Okay, well, let's imagine that we have been designing a road. We've been carefully aligning and looking at cross-sections and looking at volumes, and we're now more or less finished with our design, and it's time to print some data. Maybe we want to print some numbers, but we mostly want to print a output sheet. I'm going to be concentrating on the plan profile sheet. Okay, so we've got a profile window here, and it's got some labels on it. It's got a mass haul diagram. It's basically set up for doing design work. It's showing me the feedback I need while I'm doing my design. I've also got a plan window in here, which is similarly arranged and organized to show me the stuff that I need to use while I'm designing. So every window has options. The plan options are here. As you can see, I've got a fairly large scale on there. I've got some of my labels turned on, some of them turned off. Depends on what I'm interested in looking at while I'm working. And that's been saved in a screen layout called, I think I just retrieved one out of my custom folder here called Design, and that's what that looks like. Now I'm ready to do some output. So I'm going to pick a screen layout here called Output Plan Profile. Now this is, I think it's available in the standard install under Softtree. There it is, Output Plan Profile. I've modified it a little bit, and I'm going to be working with my custom screen layout folder. A lot of what I'm going to do today comes back to screen layouts. Because that is the way that you save all your options in a little file, so you don't have to remember which options to turn on, which ones to turn off. It just saves you so much time. Okay, so I'm starting with this screen layout, and the first thing I see is, yikes, my paper is the wrong size. So like any program, if you go to print something from our software, you have to choose your printer, and you also have to choose your paper. So I'm just going to do that. Now there's a print setup menu here that allows you to do it even without printing. So I can choose my printer. This one here, I'm going to use PDF. We don't have a paper printer with tabloid size, so I'll print a PDF. And there's my tabloid paper size, and we want landscape. Oops, I did something wrong there. Let's try that again. File, printer setup. Statement. I meant to pick tabloid. There we go. Right, so the first thing you'll notice, this is showing a plan and profile. and it looks like it's got a few other things on there. So somebody went to a lot of trouble to put all these windows on here. I'm going to show you the basics there, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. All of these windows are called sub windows. I think they're called sub windows. No, they're called Subviews, sorry. And you can add from the right click, new subview, and here's all the various kinds of subviews you can create. Profile plan, rectangle, this is the one you use most often, legend, scale bar, image. So let me just add a new one here. I'm going to add a scale bar. Click on there. There's my scale bar. It comes up with sizing handles on it. I can move it around with a click and drag. And if I double click on it or right click, there's a menu. I can look at the options. This one has a scale of 2000. That's the same as my plan scale. That's perfect. I can also put in a title if I want. And this is the new locking feature that Cam mentioned. If I leave it unlocked, then I can move it around. If I lock it, then it becomes unavailable. So generally, you lock things that you're not going to modify, boilerplate stuff, and you unlock things that you're likely to modify in the future. So I'm going to leave it unlocked for a sec just to illustrate how that all works. Okay, so there's my title bar, and it's on every page right now. Let's look at the pages. So unlike the terrain module, location module has the ability to do multiple pages for output. So I'm just going to use the Control-N function to move through the pages. And oh, that doesn't look very good. The plan window's got kind of a funny shape to it. But you can see that it's showing each page with the plan and the profile scrolling together to show the station range of the page. The options for setting up pages are here in multi-plot options, right-click multi-plot options. If you right-click inside a window, you have two choices, the window you click on, the subview you click on, and multi-plot options, so it's always available. Also available from double-click. Multi-plot options, pagination button. Here's how my page is set up. I've got a plan and a profile window which are at the same scale. So when I click on Use Plan or Profile Width, it says how big I need. Well, basically tells me how long the plan and or profile in station dimension. So it's going to fit 600 meters of road. But that doesn't work very good. I could put in an overlap. That works okay. But then you'll see that the pages, each of them has kind of an odd number of meters. So rather than have page 2 starting at 540, I can just say, no, let's just put in a, simple station length, 500 meters per page. And now you can see what all the pages look like in the list. And that's how it was set up when I got it. Clearly, the size of the page depends on which units you're using. We're working in meters here, but if this was in feet and you had a scale of 2400 or something, then the number here would be quite different in feet. Okay, so that's pagination. That works really nicely for almost all pages. Just going to get rid of this thing here. We'll come back to locking in a minute. So I'm just going to get rid of the toolbar. Any window that's selected, you can delete. And if I just select the toolbar, oops, it's not in the front. I'll just shuffle to back. There we go. Delete. Okay. So I've got multiple pages here. I go through page 1, page 2. That looks pretty good. The plan window is kind of falling off the top of the page here. Notice that the profile has rescaled automatically. You can change a little bit the behavior of that by clicking here in the profile options, layout. You can change the margins. I've got a bigger bottom margin than a top margin because most of my labels go downwards, so I don't want them to fall off the page. But usually works just great, and there's not much you have to do to the profile to make sure everything's visible. plan window, on the other hand, is a little different. This window is marginal, page, I mean. This page 3 is good, but page 4 is not very good. And page 5 is fine. Okay, so let's go back. Control-N, Control-N. By the way, there's a function here for going to the next page, jump to page, and it reminds you that you can use Control-N, Control-B to move through the pages. And we're going to add the page up, page down keys in the future. I can't I can't believe we hadn't thought of that before now, but it should be in there. Will be soon. Okay, so I'm looking at this page number 2, and I can't quite see the top of the plan window. So go right-click, Plan Subview Options, change it to coordinates, and this is important, this page only. So only on page 3 will my coordinates be defined. Now it's kind of hard to figure out what numbers to type in here. So rather than typing in a bunch of large XY coordinate numbers, I am just going to scroll up using keystrokes. Now there's a way of doing that, but we've introduced, yeah, that's fine, that works. Okay, Shift up is scroll, and or Shift arrow is scroll. Doesn't matter which way you scroll. Okay, so I've Shift arrow down a little bit, and Control arrow is rotate. So you can put it, oops, there.
Dave, it looks like we have a question.
Oh, thank you, Cam.
Yeah, no problem.
Yes, can we show a background image in the plan? Certainly. The plan window right now is the, we're going to come to other things you can put in the plan window too in a minute. The plan window is showing the terrain in the background, and that's just a terrain file. You can put multiple terrain files in the background, and you can include images in terrain files. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can put in the background. Let me just finish the pagination stuff. So I fixed this one, Control N, looks good, Control B, Control B. So it's only on this page that it's scrolling manually. If I go back here and open the plan options, it's still set to automatic. So this is the plan window. I can control a lot of stuff with plan window options, but you should be aware that the plan window is just a picture of the real plan window. So let's restore this. So here's the multiplot window, and here's the real plan window. And in fact, everything that's displayed in this plan window is displayed in the multiplot plan window. So in fact, if you wanted to, you could go into the same plan options dialog box from the main plan window and do things like change scale, change labels. Automatic labels are displayed. Let's turn on L-line stations. The user-defined is a good way to do that, but I think there's one here for, yeah, there we are. L station report point intervals, turn that on, and I think that just shows up at, holy smoke, that's not very good. Labels, point intervals, no options. Oh, that's no good. Okay, turn that one off. Yeah, I'll just use the user-defined here. So I'm going to turn on the attribute of station number. It's going to happen at equal intervals. So let's turn all these off and just turn on equal intervals. Point type is the kind of thing you can use to control a lot of things in our software. So you may see that point selection dialog box elsewhere. So there's my equal interval point selected. There's my label. There's display attribute means it'll say station equals. If I turn that off, it'll just have the station number. And you can also control all the formatting of that label in here, like what's the font size, what's the position. In this case, it's set up to be referenced to the road. There we go. Whoops. No, it isn't. Who set this up anyway? Let's do that again. I'm going to go back to plan options and scroll down here to user defined, go into position and change this to relative. And I think that'll be right. There we go. Right, that was a lot of work. That took me a bit of effort. So let's save it in the screen layout. So anything that is in your options, anything that is displayed in your multiplot, which window is visible, where the window is, you can move these things around, right? All that stuff is saved in your screen layout. So now I've got my station numbers displayed on there, and I can't remember what other changes I've made, but I've just saved it in the screen layout. Let me do that again. Pop down the screen layouts, right-click. I'm in my custom folder here, so not everybody's going to see this, just me, and save. Now those files are stored on your hard drive. You can save them, you can move them around, you can give them to friends. Module setup. Oh, we got more questions. I'll get to those in a sec. Install Explore. That's your default folder for screen layouts, and they are just little files. So there's a screen layout there. You can copy that and email it to somebody or whatever. Okay, we've looked at the plan window, and we've noticed that the thing rotates a little bit. How much is it rotating? Where's the north arrow? That's the question. Paul Hunt asked me that. And can we change the format of the station label in the plan? Yes. Let's do the station label format first. It's a simple thing. The label is displayed as a simple number with a decimal. Under module setup, here we are, station labeling, we can display it. There's the standard metric format. So I just change that, okay, and that gets put in there. Now, north arrow. So, oh, and look, I haven't finished answering that question. So plan options. So you always get one level of multi-plot option here, and then you click on the options button and you get to the main plan window options. And here's your background list, and I can add as many things as I want in there. I've actually got 3 in there already, and I could easily have a terrain that has an image in it. And the order of display here is important. If you put an image in, you want it at the top, so it gets drawn first, and then the other ones get drawn on top of it. Right, north arrow. So the plan window does have a simple north arrow in it. There it is. So now we can see the orientation, and we can see that as I change pages, the orientation is changing. So let's put in a more fancy one. Okay, take out that one, and that is simply not configurable. But you can put in the multiplot, you can put new subview, a terrain. Now, a terrain is, well, let's just put one in there. Okay, so basically I can put any terrain in, and I've done this morning, so it's going to the right folder. Notice users public documents, software sample 7 library has a couple of north arrows in it. I'm going to pick north arrow 1. It's just a terrain, and it will appear. Let's just, there it is. Okay, there's my north arrow. So you could use this for other things too, like for example a stock cross section. You might have some drawing in terrain, or you might have a drawing in AutoCAD. You can read it into terrain, and then you can display it in here. You can't display an AutoCAD file directly. There's no new sub-window AutoCAD, although you might get away with using an OLE object. I would not recommend it. But in a terrain, you can hold anything that you can import. AutoCAD files, images, shape files, etc. And then you can display that file in the multi-plot window. Now, the problem here is my north arrow is not pointing in the right direction. So let's just move it to a reasonable spot. I'll just use that shift arrow trick to move it to the center of its window. And now, go into the options there, and you'll see something called Rotate with Plan. There it is. Okay, done. So now we've got a nice north arrow, and it does indeed rotate with the plan window. Have I changed this screen layout yet? No, so I've got this one working really nicely, this plan window here. Continuing on in the vein of pagination, how on earth would I deal with this page? You might get away with just rotating it and scrolling it like this, shift arrow. Oops, yes, your plan window is set. So I didn't even have to go into options. I just type shift arrow, and it tells me that it's already automatic. Do you wish to scroll? Yes. And now I can do stuff like that. And maybe I want to actually rotate it so it looks like that. And am I getting the right station numbers? I zoom in at the beginning here, and we're looking at about 1350. Just about. There's 1500. And at the end over here, 18. Okay, so 2000 is no problem. So actually, maybe I should rotate it a little bit. Like so. Good. Had a question about whether we can put title block with company name and stuff. Well, you'll notice that I've got some boilerplate text here, which I can edit. So you can create subviews that are rectangles, and that's what this is. It's just a rectangle. And I can go in here and I can type any text I want. This screen layout right now is set up with no locking. And one of the problems with that is that when you go to edit something, you find that it's not available because, well, let me just illustrate. If I were to create a rectangle that was just for giving me a nice thick border, so I'm going to change the border thickness here. It's got no text in it. It's just a rectangle, and I'm just going to move it so that it gives me a nice thick border around my title block area. There we go. Okay. Now I want to go and change the title, and I double click here and I get the rectangle subview options with no text because it's the window on top that I'm getting, not the window behind. And there's a solution to that. Now we've got this locking concept. So I can go into this selected subview and lock it. It's just boilerplate. I'm never going to change the position of that rectangle, so I can lock it fully. And now, when I double click here, I get this window because the other one behind is locked, and I don't have to worry about it. If I did have to change that window, I can't select it now. Even if I shuffle this one to the back, right-click, shuffle front to back, and click, I'm still not picking up that other window because it's locked. So there's a menu item, Allow Edit of Locked Items, right-click. And now, if I click here, oh, I'm getting Plan and Profile, shuffle to back. By the way, notice shuffle to back has a keystroke, Control-K. Use that all the time. And now I select, and oh, there it is. That's the window I wanted. I can move it around. I can size it. And I can delete it, whatever. It's available. And then I can go back to locked only. So you can always turn off locking en masse. And I don't have a logo in here right now. What if I wanted to put an image in? So let's do that. I'm going to delete this little rectangle. am going to add an image, and the image is a file, and I have to find the file. Here's a software image. Notice that this is a full path name here. So in other words, the name of the file is stored in the multiplot. The file itself is not. So it's a link. So if you move this multiplot to another computer where RoadEng has not been installed, then this library folder will not exist, or this sample folder will not exist. And it's going to prompt you, where's my logo? Can't find it. Okay, so there's my logo, and now I can move it down here and size it to fit. You may have noticed that when I do these size operations, I always get things to line up really nicely. That's because I've turned on multiplot options, grid. So I'm snapping to grid. I got a 5 millimeter grid spacing, and I'm using snap to grid. You can show it too if you want. There's the grid points, see all the little dots over here. So snap to grid is really useful. The other thing that's kind of useful in that vein is, oops, I thought I turned that off. Okay. Is copy and paste. So if you get something set up nicely, a little rectangle, for example, you can always use copy and then paste. And you can copy and paste between different windows. It does go to the clipboard, so you might have two location modules open, and you can copy and paste these things and move them around. And you can multiply select them too. And if you do that, you can move them as a group, and you can delete them as a group. And you can copy them as a group too. Well, we're reaching the end here. Let's see if there's anything I've missed. I want to just show you the behavior of the locked one. So let's just open this screen layout. So a lot of the work here is set up. Once you've done it, you save it as a screen layout, and then you can just reopen that screen layout, and it remembers all your settings. So this is the screen layout I've been working on. I've changed a couple of things. Most notably, I've locked a bunch of items. So for example, I can't click and drag in here and actually change the position of the plan window. I can, however, go into plan options and change scale, stuff like that. One little gotcha that let's go to the page where we move things around. So this window here, if I want to scroll it, I can still go into plan window options, and oh, this window hasn't been set up in this screen layout, so I need to change it to use coordinates. Right, and now I'd like to just use the scroll shift arrow, but it's working with the whole thing. So in fact, I have to quickly allow edit of locked items. And then when I go back to my plan window, I can use my shift arrow, control arrow, whatever. So that is safe with the screen layout. And you don't want to lose that information when you've created a custom layout. So what I tend to do is make a custom output, like that one there, and save it to my screen layout folder. And then when I'm finished and I'm archiving my design, I don't leave it in my screen layout folder. I copy that little file to go with the actual document. In this case, my document is saved in, on my hard drive here. So I would put in the screen layout in that. I would throw the screen layout in that folder as well. Okay, so let's take a look at that custom screen layout. There it is. And I'll show you what I did with it. I put 2 different plan windows in here. So this actually required me to make 3 plan windows. I've got the regular plan window, which it looks like this, and then I got 2 more, which are that one and that one. And that would all be fairly straightforward. You just right-click, New Subview, except you'll notice that what's available on this menu is also what's available on this menu. In other words, you can't create a plan window unless you have a real plan window. And it turns out that in location you can create as many plan windows. Well, I think there's a limit, but you can create multiple plan windows. So I created 3 of them. I just went Window, New Window, Plan. There's the 4th one. I don't need that, so I can delete it. But now you'll see that in the multiplot, New Subview, there's the 4th plan window. Now, how did I get them to appear like this? Well, every window now has options for show on all pages. So this one only shows on page 4. Whereas on the next page, this is the main, no it's not, this one, this one. There. I keep getting the wrong one. I don't think I locked these. I should have. Anyway, it doesn't matter. This is the thing that will frustrate you every time. Is I want to edit the Plan 1 options, and I keep getting Plan 2 because it's on top. Shuffle front to back. There we go. There's Plan 1. So don't forget about that shuffle front to back. It can be frustrating. We're working on a change in the menu, so if you right-click here, you get all the windows. But anyway, yeah. So this one is not on all pages. It's on all but page 4. So I think that kind of gets the point across, and that should just about finish our demonstration for today. I hope I answered all your questions. Oh, I know something I totally forgot to tell you. We changed the rectangle border options recently. So let me create a rectangle with a nice thick boundary, and notice we've got this new rounded corners thing here, and include top, bottom, left, right. So if I turn on rounded corners and exclude left and bottom, then you get something like this. And I hope you can imagine how you could use that sort of thing. Used to be your rectangle had to have all 4 sides, and it had to have a sharp corner. You've got a little bit more flexibility now. Good. That sums up everything I want to say. We will post this on our YouTube channel as per usual. Thank you all for attending.
Have a good weekend, everybody.